All right. All right, I got the recorder working now. It's actually on. I recorded 30 minutes yesterday on wheels. And I got to get to work, and I'm like, yeah, that was a great talk. I did such a good job patting myself on the back. And then I get my phone out and realize I didn't press record. No recording was pressed. So we're going to try and recreate the magic. I don't think it shouldn't be that hard. So this will be a good thinking process. So I got this monster board. This monster setup. I got some old wheels that I'm using with it. I got two choices of wheels. This is kind of why I'm talking about. I'm going to talk about wheels because I got basically a 9-inch deck, 15-inch wheelbase. It's one of the POW, one of the regular decks. It's made in China, which kind of sticks in my craw a little bit. But what are you going to do on short notice? I mean, it's an experimental board. And so yeah, 9-inch wide, 15-inch wheelbase, biggest wheelbase I've ever skated, I think. Probably the biggest board I've ever skated. There's a story that goes along with that, which I will not get into now. But I got the Ace Classic 55 trucks and some independent riser pads because Aces are like 53 millimeter, and what I'm probably gonna stick on it is some 54 millimeter wheels. So, like to me, to be comfy, I'll need some riser pads. But I have 60 millimeter wheels on it right now. I also got deck rails on it. I don't usually skate deck rails. I put deck rails on another board and it felt weird. So my rule for deck rails now is that I can skate deck rails as long as I put it on the board right away, because it does change the way the board feels. So if you put it on a deck right away when you're trying them, you don't really notice it feeling different. But if you put it on a board that doesn't have deck rails that you've been skating already, and put the deck rails on, then it feels weird. Something about the sound, something about like the way it like doesn't like vibrate as much, something. Like it feels more dead kind of thing. So that's something to think about. But anyway, so 9-inch deck, 15-inch wheelbase, deck rails, big old riser pads, big old 60 millimeter bomber wheels. It's like a half-inch taller than my normal setup, which I'm kind of like, I don't know if I like that, because like having it so different, like it's like the pop and stuff, it's just kind of crazy. That's probably gonna bug me, but I'm gonna try it out. I'm gonna try it out with it like that for a little bit at least. I'm gonna try, unless it just totally is just messing with my head, because that's the one thing I don't really want to change my pop that much, and that's wheels and the height of your skateboard. That's a thing. I think, like the more I think about it, the more I'm gonna like, I'm probably just gonna change that as soon as I get home, because I do have some. Anyway, so let's get onto the topic of wheels. What wheels are the best for you? The best wheels for skateboarding. The best ever talk about wheels and skateboarding. Anyway, those might be some good titles. I might try all three of those on some videos. Anyway, wheels affect your board a lot, mostly because they affect your pop. And there's some ways to get around, like the difference in pop or whatnot. So like I used to ride, like 60 millimeter wheels used to be like my jam. I used to like really like, and that meant like, you know, I'm riding my board around like a monster truck. It makes it really steep. So you can ollie higher. It's a little easy to ollie higher because it's like the more up and down you can get your board, the kind of higher you can ollie kind of thing. And so there's definitely that advantage to having the bigger wheels. But anyway, there's pros and cons. There's pros and cons to wheels. Okay, and here's kind of how it goes. The smaller the wheels, the faster they accelerate. Not the faster they are, but the faster they will accelerate. So they'll get up to their top speed the fastest. The flip side of that is they also slow down a lot faster. So this kind of like gears on a bicycle. You know, so you have like your big ring in the front, like your speed ring, and like if you start on the flat, it's really hard to get up to speed. But if you're like in a lower gear in the front, and it's a smaller chain ring, then it's faster to get up to speed. But that top speed is kind of limited. You start like hamster wheeling. You just start spinning, and you don't feel like you're like contributing much to the momentum. And this is a physics thing, which is fortunate because, you know, a skateboard is basically a physics toy. It's all about levers and ratios and stuff like that. That's what allows a skateboard to work. Is physics. God's wonderful, consistent universe is what makes skateboards work. So anyway, small wheels. Here are the pros. They are lighter. They accelerate faster, and they don't get in the way as much if you're doing fancy, like ledge dancing type things, like you're going from no slide to crooked to 5-0 to no slide, like all those kind of like fancy kind of like curb trick kind of things or ledge trick kind of things. So there's that. In my mind, those are the pros. But to me, the cons, they outweigh the small wheels. And I come from a generation where I skated 40 millimeter wheels. I know what I'm talking about. So I've ridden these extremes before, and I spent a couple years skating small wheels. And when I finally figured out that the problems I was having was due to the small wheels, then I got rid of them. But anyway, so small wheels, the cons, you feel every single little thing in the pavement. It's a rougher ride. You lose speed really quick. You better hope that if they're really small wheels, like 40, 45 millimeter wheels kind of thing, then you're gonna, like, every single little crack, every little twig, you know, you better hope there's not ripped up confetti on the ground, because you're gonna just hit it and stop and go flying off your board. Like, you're gonna die. I have absolutely no idea how we ever skated with small wheels. Like, me and my brother going down the sidewalk, just ka-chunk, 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 like hitting every single crack in the sidewalk. And you're basically just, like, constantly pushing. Like, you never get to ride your skateboard because you're constantly pushing. And that's kind of my, like, the smallest I will go now is 54 millimeters. I got this little bug in my head about a year ago. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to try small wheels. I think small wheels are great. And I kept, like, trying to, like, convince myself that, like, the lightweightness of the wheels would counteract any, like, negativity. And so I like soft wheels because I'm an old guy. Tried 52 millimeters, and they were too slow. They were too slow. I spent so much time pushing I got more tired from pushing than I did from doing tricks. And I'm an old man, so I don't want to use up all my energy pushing. There will be a time and a place where I use up all my energy pushing, but I don't want it to be now. So I just, because that's the name of the game. They accelerate fast and they decelerate just as fast. If you're a fan of Dan Corrigan, go ahead and look, just keep an eye on it, on how much he pushes and how hard he pushes. He pushes really hard. It's not, so he pushes really hard. He pushes a lot, and I don't want to push really hard, and I don't want to push a lot. So and this is how I figured it out. So I put him on the board, and I'm like, I'm super excited. Like, I was worried about the pop a little bit, but I'm like, you know what? It's 1 millimeter. It shouldn't be that much difference. And it wasn't that much difference in that regard. But I go to my favorite park, and I'm rolling up toward the ledge, and normally I can just kind of drop in on this little bank they got that goes toward the ledges, and I don't need to push. I can just, go down that little bank and go toward the ledges, and I can just kind of chill and get set up for my trick, and it's all good. And I try that, and I literally stop rolling before I get to the ledge. And I'm like, well, this sucks. And so I try it again, and I'm like, I need to keep pushing. I need to push. And I just I pushed so much and had to push so hard to try and get up to the right speed I wanted to get to, which was not very fast to begin with. To get to the ledges, to get to the tricks, to get to the obstacles, that I just it just ruined my skate session. I was just like, no, this is a no-go. There are some skate setups, you get on them and you're just like, man, this is gross. And so I took them off that day. I was just like, no, I'm done. And I put my big clunky 54 millimeter wheels back on, and was just like, all right, I'm done. I'm not doing this. Because the lightness of the board, the board was really light. That was awesome. But it didn't matter. I didn't care, because just pushing was so annoying. And so you slow down a lot faster. That could be a good thing. It could be a bad thing. If you want to skate slower, smaller wheels might be for you. If you, I don't suggest this, but if for some reason you have kind of hilly terrain and you want to have kind of a lower top speed, smaller wheels will work. I don't suggest. When I got into longboarding, I only had a regular skateboard wheels, and I would bomb hills on using that, and it's a lot easier to bomb hills with small wheels than it is with big giant wheels that you kind of need to bomb hills, But anyway, so I was like, I'm not doing it. So 54 millimeters is the smallest I'll go now. And so big wheels. The pros and cons of big wheels. The pros. You can roll over basically anything. If you have 60 millimeter wheels, you have to run into a boulder to get stopped. You can kind of ignore whatever's on the ground. You can't completely ignore everything that's on the ground, but you can basically ignore everything that's on the ground. The pavement, you can have rough pavement, all that kind of good stuff. You won't even notice. The one park where I wiped out really bad, it has really rough pavement. And when I first started skating that park, I had big, giant, soft 60 millimeter wheels on my board, and I couldn't tell that the pavement was so rough. I changed my wheels up, I got smaller wheels, and they were a little harder. And I went back to that park with those wheels on, And I was like, whoa, this park is really rough. Like, I hadn't even noticed how rough the park was. So, big wheels, they roll over everything. They don't pick up speed fast, but they stay really fast. So at one of the parks that I skate at fairly, well, not as frequently anymore because it's super slick. So if there's any dew in the air, it's just like you can't skate there until the dew burns off. But like I could just like do one little push and I'd be flying across the entire skate park with big wheels. That's the thing, like if you're used to small wheels, you're going to be like push, 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 and then be like, oh crap, I'm going way too fast. Because it takes a little long to pick up speed, so you think you're going to go slow, and then you just keep going. You just slowly build up and keep going faster and faster and faster and faster. Which can be good if you like going fast. It can also be good if you're lazy and you don't want to push that much. Because you end up pushing less. You keep a lot more of your momentum. I think that's why like the vert skaters like them. You keep so much more of your momentum when you're skating big wheels. And so that's a positive. You can run over everything. That's a positive. It's easy, like you lock into grinds probably too much. The downside is they're heavy. There's kind of no getting around that. Like the big 60 millimeter bomber wheels that I have on my new setup, I think they weigh like, and these are old and used, I think they weigh like 12 ounces or 12 and a half ounces or something like that. Whereas my next biggest wheels down, which are the same width, but they're 54 millimeters, I think they weigh like 9.8 ounces or 10 ounces or something like that. Like they weigh a couple ounces less, which is fairly significant. You'd think it wouldn't matter that much, but that's fairly significant as far as wheels go. And so, yeah, so they're heavy. They make it harder to do flip tricks. They make it harder to do some tricks just because the board's heavier. You got to work harder for it. What's another downside? That's basically it. They're heavy. They don't accelerate really fast. They keep their speed like crazy, like I said. But yeah. So the downside is they're heavy, and they can mess up your pop. That's the other one. Like if you're used to having a certain level of pop, it can get messed up. But like I said, like my new setup, it's like half an inch taller than my normal setup, which I'm kind of not liking. I'm probably gonna change it up again and get it matched up so that timing is not completely messed up. I don't know. It depends, because I think it depends on like how steep the tail and stuff is too. We'll have to see. That might be another experiment. Might be another video. So hardness of wheels. If you are an old skater, you need to skate soft wheels. Okay, you don't need to skate soft wheels. I'm sure you can get insoles or something like that. But for me, I skated, like I said, I spent some time longboarding. One of the areas I used to skate where I used to live, it was really crusty pavement. It was a lot of downhill, a lot of hills. And so I wanted big soft wheels so I didn't get thrown off my board at like 20 miles an hour charging down a hill. And if I wanted to scrub off speed, I wanted to be able to carve. I wanted to be able to turn and to carve and to be able to grip. So I wanted softer wheels because of that. I prefer to have grippy wheels. I don't like slidey wheels. You can still slide with soft wheels if you need to. It's just harder to do it. And I don't like sliding. So, like, what would happen is, like, so when the Dragon wheels first came out, I was like, they're like having soft wheels and they're like 93A. They're like, oh, but you can still slide. And I'm like, okay, cool. And I'm not sure there's anything really different with the formula. I think if any company came out with a 93A, they would work exactly the same. I'm not sure there's anything special about them. So like, I'm like, cool. So I bought like a pair of 54 millimeter wheels. They were those were smaller wheels for what I was used to, but I was like, you know what, it'll be okay. And I went and skated around my normal neighborhood like I normally do, and I kept sliding out because I would pick up speed and I'd be like, all right, time to like scrub off some speed by just doing some carving. And I would go to carve really hard and my board would just slide out. And I was like, it happened enough. It happened enough, and it happened during times when I was like, I don't think I'm going that fast. I don't think I should have slid out. But it happened enough that I was just like, all right, I don't want to be surprised by this. So I switched back to my big soft wheels because I was just like, it's just not having this. It's just not fun. So I like to grip. I did go back to those wheels when I started skating basically exclusively skate parks because I wasn't going downhill and it didn't really need the grip. But what changed my mind about keeping the wheels is that they were just destroying my feet. Like landing on stuff was so hard, my board felt so hard, there was like no cushion. And it would, like, my feet would hurt like crazy, and I'd have to like skate for like 20 minutes to get my feet to feel okay and kind of get warmed up. And then after the session, I'd be like limping around like my feet were broken. And I was just like, I didn't want to go back to my big fat wheels. But I bought the newer Dragon formula model, the 88A. And so the 88A feels a lot more like my Bombers. Not totally like my Bombers, because my Bombers are 85A. They're still a little softer. Yes, you can tell the difference. Where that's a little softer and the 88As are a little harder. But that solved my problem. They're soft enough. They still slide enough. I'm not sure that as far as like nose slides and board slides, stuff like that, I'm not sure the soft wheels affect things that much. I mean, like, you had people skating soft wheels forever. But it definitely is easier to slide with hard wheels. So, but I'm just a baby. It makes my feet hurt. If it didn't make my feet hurt, I'd probably ride the hard wheels, but I want to enjoy skateboarding. I don't want to I don't want to get broken by skateboarding just by ollieing. So, not yet at least. So there's that. So soft wheels, they grip. Hard wheels, they slide. That's kind of thing. Soft wheels, they cut down on like the vibration of like crappy concrete, so you don't feel that like you don't, like, it doesn't feel like you're like sitting on top of something like a back massager that vibrates. Like you're standing on a back massager kind of thing, and your feet just like get vibrated to death. It doesn't feel like that, and so like it takes the sting out. So that's why I skate soft wheels. But I totally get why people skate hard wheels. Hard wheels actually go faster too than soft wheels, because soft wheels they deform because of your weight, and they want part of that grippiness comes from them like kind of molding themselves to the ground or whatnot, like in very small ways, not like big. It's not like Play-Doh. But harder wheels, they don't do that. So they keep a lot more of the momentum. They kind of skip over the hard stuff, which is why they vibrate harder. So yeah, so I go softer. So most of my wheels now are like, I settled on like 54 millimeter. And like, as I'm talking, I've not ridden my new setup yet. I thought about taking it to school and being like, oh, I'm gonna ride this to class, but I'm kind of scared of it, and I don't want my first session on the board eating it on the way to school. eating it on the way to work. Because sometimes I'll park and I'll get my board out and I'll skate to my classroom, because it's like there's a driveway that goes all the way around my school and I can like walk in the back door. And sometimes I'll do that, and I was really tempted. I was really tempted to do it because I'm pumped about this experimental board setup. Like I'm almost 99% sure it's not going to replace my normal board setup. I'm 99% sure of that. But I am 100% sure that it will be fun to try and see what tricks I can do on this board. So that is kind of the idea. That's the idea. And the only thing that kind of gives me pause is that, you know, the 60 millimeter, the board is kind of meant to be going like to the extreme, to be going all out. And if I make compromises, if I start making a bunch of compromises about the board, and if I wanted to flip more, and I wanted to do this, and I wanted to have the same pop and all this kind of stuff, then I might as well just skate my regular board setup. There's no reason to skate a different setup. So this will kind of be like my weird, it's going to be my weird board. This is going to be like my opposite board. Because it's kind of fun having an opposite board. You have an opposite board. I had an opposite board for a little bit, where I had like one board that was like wide with, it was wide with big wheels and like loose trucks. And then I had a board for a little bit that was like, it was skinny with wider wheelbase trucks. And they were tight, and they had smaller wheels, so it was like opposite land, and that was really fun, because it's like after skating I skate the big deck, the big board with the big wheels, and I would skate as like a warm up, and I just kind of mess around, and I get warmed up, and then by the time I was like, all right, I'm ready to like throw down and do some tricks and some stuff like that. By the time I was ready to do that, then I was like, all right, let me switch to my trick board, and we'll start going to work. So that was it. What is with these people? They can't slow down for like 5 seconds. They gotta get around you. Anyway, so having the two opposite boards was a lot of fun. So I'm glad that I'm getting back to that. So I am at work, and I did my talk about wheels. I don't think it was as good or as organic as the last time, but it did get done. And I'm still recovering. Well, I'm not recovering. I feel healed now. My abs do not feel like they're going to rip in half. My elbow and my shoulder is still definitely like they're still definitely weak from that slam. Still definitely feeling it that way, but I have not filmed or done anything this week, so I'm really happy with that. So I have a billion chores to do this weekend, but hopefully I'll get some skating done. So anyway, as always, keep pushing. Remember, God loves you. Praise God for skateboarding. That's what I'm going to say. I hope to have skateboarding in heaven. All right. Peace.